Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Speaker in the Spotlight, where you get to meet some of the speakers coming up in the Children's Mental Health Matters Summit, which starts on the 16th of September. And you can get your free tickets at www.childrensmentalhealthmatterssummit.co.uk. Today, we are joined by AJ Gajjar. Hello, good morning for you.
Yes, hello, Cassie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. So I'm going to hand straight over to you. And would you like to just give us an introduction of to who AJ is?
Yeah, so I am a trauma and parenting consultant. I'm a children's advocate and a child development specialist. And I would say supporting children as far as optimizing long-term outcomes for children kind of has always been my passion. And in my previous work, I used to do a lot of work in preschools where we were working with a lot of children with developmental delays. And my passion became, how do we optimize outcomes for these kids, despite what they're struggling with? So that really working with children and making sure that they have the best shot and the best go for success long term has really been kind of what I'm all about. Outside of that, I would say part of what helps facilitate that world for me is I love research. I love reading. I'm constantly learning about something or the other. And then I love animals. So I love spending time with I have 3 dogs. I love spending time with my 3 dogs. I love working out, going for walks. So just to kind of, I think this work can get really heavy. So just to kind of balance all of that out, it's, I think, interesting and important for us to kind of take a step back and take that time away from it as well.
Yeah, amazing. And you are over in Canada, aren't you, just for our viewers? So it is morning there and evening here. So yeah, where in Canada are you?
I'm in Alberta, so I'm closest to the western coast. We share the Rocky Mountains with the province of British Columbia, so they're very close, and we head out there every now and then. So that's very nice. Summer is just about to leave us here, and we usually end up with about, I'd say, 8 months of winter. So I'm not looking forward to that, but it is what it is.
Well, yes, yeah, and we thought we had it bad over here in the UK, but
yeah, it's different here, but
yeah. Oh, amazing. And so do you want to share a little bit with us about your business, what it is that you do business wise and how you help people?
Yeah. So my business is called The Trauma Healing Parent, and that was created after I was kind of forced to manage and go through my own high conflict divorce and learn how to support my daughter through it. It was very unexpected. She was struggling quite a bit through it. And what I realized as I kind of went through that process was that, number one, there weren't a lot of resources out there for high conflict divorce or how to support children through it. And if I was struggling with my own education and background being in developmental psychology, I couldn't imagine what other parents were going through and what other children were going through. And the more resources I tried to find, I found that there was a significant gap in anything out there to help support the kids, right? So that's kind of how Trauma Healing Parenting came about, where I've kind of taken my own life experience, my education, my work experience, and really created a parenting approach for children specifically of high conflict divorce, because these kids are different, their needs are different, their experiences are very different. A lot of the mainstream parenting approaches that are out there aren't going to work for these kids, and they didn't work for my daughter when I was trying them. So it's something that I've created where we are really able to support children and meet them where they're at and support them with what they need at the time. So I don't work directly with the kids. I work with the parents, and I help them implement this parenting approach into their environment and into their homes so that they can best support their children through it.
Yeah, amazing, and that's much needed, because well, as you said, it's sort of overlooked, that it's not really considered because it's the adult stuff that's going on, you don't realize the implication that it's having on the children. So that's amazing that you do that. And your links will go with the interview, but if people wanted to find out a little bit more about you or connect with you, where do you tend to be? Do you tend to be in one place more than the other?
I would say Facebook and LinkedIn, probably. So you can find me on Facebook at AJ Gajjar. You can find me on LinkedIn at AJ Gajjar. And then I have quite a few resources and blogs and information and stuff on my website also, which is thetraumahealingparent.com. So you can get in touch with me that way also.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that. And so just sort of changing track slightly, what was it that made you want to be involved in the Children's Mental Health Matters Summits?
Like I said, I have always been passionate about optimizing outcomes for children. And I think these days, our children are struggling with so much. They're just struggling with so much more than I think we were struggling with when we were their age, right? So I think coming together on a platform like this, where Cassie, you've managed to put together so many different people and different approaches, and we're looking at a multitude of factors that impact children. And really to be able to put that all together in a holistic way where people can just get bits and pieces of every little thing that they might need, I just could not be on it, because I think it's just so important. And there's so many children that are struggling with so many things right now, and we just need to be able to try and support them in the right way, right? So that, they have optimized long-term outcomes. And really my thing is, I want to make sure that children aren't struggling long-term with mental health concerns and physical health concerns and all the things that can bring with it, right? So if we can help support them better right now, we can hopefully alleviate that for them in the future.
And that's so important to be able to provide that for people, because sometimes parenting can feel very lonely and you feel like you're the only one that's going through stuff. So the idea is that we do share this. And one thing this year in particular, just sort of off on a slight tangent, because we have international like speakers from obviously Canada over to New Zealand, is when I've been talking to the speakers, realizing actually how much the same it is. Well, that this is a global thing. There is so much that, because sometimes when you're in the UK and you don't tend to know much about the education system or the justice system or whatever, you tend to think that it's just the country that you're in. But actually speaking to you all, this is global, and that in some ways makes it a little bit more scary. If it's an isolated country, you're sort of like, okay, we can do something. But when it's global, it makes you realize how many parents are literally just like not knowing what to do and not knowing where to turn. So thank you for being a part of this and helping to raise awareness on things that are so important. So I hope that it does help many people. And would you like to give us a sneak peek on what your presentation is covering?
Yes. So my presentation is about supporting children through high conflict divorce. And like I said, it's very specific in how we support these children, because what organizations and the systems that we're operating in right now aren't necessarily recognizing or understanding is that when children are going through or witnessing a high conflict divorce of their parents, they themselves are experiencing the trauma as well, right? So I think our systems right now are set up in a way to not fully acknowledge the idea that children are actually direct recipients of maladaptive parenting and parenting that is not in their best interest. A lot of what we see, and it's funny you mentioned the cross country situation, because that's what I found as well. A lot of In a lot of different countries, the systems aren't looking at the fact that children are directly targeted as victims of abuse, of domestic abuse, right? And that's what we really need to look at. So these children are experiencing trauma. It's impacting their brain development. So we kind of briefly go through how it's impacting their brain development. And then we really go through how is it that we're going to support these children, right? If we are stuck in legal systems right now, where when parents split up, by default, most of the time, I would say, custody ends up being 50-50, unless you can prove otherwise. And it is extremely difficult to do so. And it takes an extremely long time to do so also, right? So these kids are stuck in a situation where they are experiencing ongoing trauma. And the chances of us getting them out of that situation is very, very slim. So then what are we going to do to help support these kids while they're in it? Because this is unfortunately the reality that they're dealing with, right? So I go through very specific steps around how we're going to support these kids in terms of establishing stability in their home and reestablishing a sense of safety, because the damage that's being done is being caused due to a lack of safety and a lack of capacity on part of the other parent to be able to provide for their social, emotional, psychological needs. So then we have to really step it up to be able to provide all that for them. Um, so really it's about going through that and recognizing the nuances that these children experience and the needs that they have and how best we can meet them again where they're at, and how we can best support them with the resources that we have to be able to support them through the reality of what they're dealing with.
Yeah, amazing, and it's so important. And as you say, it's there's not much out there covering that. So I think it's really important to highlight this because, as I said before, being a parent can feel lonely, but being a parent in a high conflict divorce must feel even more. You must feel very isolated in that. So your presentation is amazing, so I definitely recommend tuning in to AJ's presentation amongst everybody else's. So as we wrap up, I just want to thank you for your time today. I am very grateful for you to join us. Is there anything else that you wanted to say just before we wrap up, or have we covered everything?
I think we've covered everything. The one thing I would want to leave people with is if they have any questions in their mind of, well, I'm not really sure if my situation's high conflict or not, and I'm not really sure how much my kids are struggling, don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to even just have a conversation and see if my resources would be a fit for you or not, and potentially be able to point you in the right direction if I'm not the right fit. I would, just my intention is to help support these kids as best as we can. So if there's any questions in your mind, just feel free to reach out.
Amazing, thank you. And thank you for that, and thank you for joining today. So please do tune back in for another speaker in the spotlight soon, but for now we will see you all later, and thank you again, AJ, for joining us. See you later. Bye bye.